My grandfather was actually born in the United States.
Okay.
But when he was just, even though my great-grandfather was from Jamaica. And when my grandfather was just a toddler, it was actually the Ku Klux Klan that ran them out of the United States, and they came back to Jamaica. And much of my family always said that they would never come back to the United States.
I'm curious as to your name. West, is it an abbreviation for Wesley or Weston or something? What is your full name?
So my full name is Wesley Watende Mari Moore. And so Wesley is W-E-S-T-L-E-Y.
Uh-huh. And the rest, because the rest needs to, and you said the rest of it is what?
Watende Omari.
I'm going to ask you to spell that.
Yes, W-A-T-E-N-D-E O-M-A-R-I.
All right.
Yes, that's my full name.
All right, what is it that brings you to Jamaica? You just feel like a vacation?
No, so it's good getting back to Jamaica, and this time to be UCC's commencement speaker.
You won't only be here in the capacity of a speaker.
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, I'm going to be an honorary graduate recipient, but also, I'm proud of the fact that not only am I the governor of Maryland, but also someone who's of very proud Jamaican ancestry. So this is good because this is my heritage.
When you learned that this announcement conference, what did it do to your headspace?
Yeah, it was very humbling, and it was very humbling because I know how important Jamaica is to my family's background and my family's history and my journey, where I feel like so much of who I am has been shaped and defined by my culture. And so when I had the opportunity to come here, and actually this was the invitation actually came prior to me being inaugurated as the governor. So it was very humbling to receive the invitation.
Help us to understand, as governor, what is the parallel here in Jamaica? Is it equivalent to our mayorship, or help us to understand?
So it's almost the equivalent of the heads of parishes. And so inside of Jamaica, how you can have, whether it's Chilani or whether you can have Westmoreland, or whether you have all the different parishes there are. In the United States, it's very similar, where you have 50 different states.
Right.
And so my state, the state of Maryland, is right by, it's the area, the geography that's right north of Washington D.C. And it's not only one of the most affluent states inside of the United States. It's also very probably one of the most diverse states in the United States. And so we like to say that in the state of Maryland is very much as they call America in miniature, where everything you'd want to find in the United States you can find in the state of Maryland. And so I'm proud to now be their 63rd governor.
Yes, well, do you stand alone? I mean, in terms of as a black governor, how significant is that? Are you one of 20, one of 15?
Yeah, no, I'm.
Speaking of the significance of that.
I'm one of one. I'm the first black governor in the history of the state of Maryland. I'm only the third black governor in the history of the United States ever elected. And I am the only black governor currently in the United States. So of all the 50 states in the United States, I'm the only one who's black.
How much of a burden is that to carry that weight?
It's a burden, and it also serves, I think it does two things. One, it shows a measure of progress, right? And the fact that Maryland has never had this before. So the fact I'm now standing as the governor shows a measure of progress. But it also, I think, highlights how much further we still have to go, right? Well, the fact that of all of the 50 states, we have one African American governor. The fact that in the hundreds of years of existence of the United States, only three black people have ever been elected as governor. And we're given that kind of role and responsibility in the history of the United States. I think my being there shows a measure of progress, but I think also my being there continues to shine a light on the fact and this idea that we still have further to go in our representative democracy.
To what extent, if anything, do you think that Obama's presidency has contributed to Did it have any? Was there any conference?
Yes, well, I think there is, to understand the journey of, for me and for so many others, you have to be able to understand the journey of those who came before us,
Yeah.
to include President Obama. And I think President Obama did help to shed a light and move a measure of progress for the United States in a very important way. But I tell you, I also think about the other people who came before us. And that includes people like, my grandfather, who was raised in Jamaica, immigrated, came back to the United States. He became the first black minister in the history of the Dutch Reformed Church when he came to the United States. And I think about his path and his journey, and very much how it has completely influenced my path and my journey. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that I stand on very big shoulders of people who came before me, and it's something that I think has helped to guide my entire path.
What are the immediate tasks, priority tasks ahead of you in respect of your governorship?
Well, I think there's a few things that we are going to drill on, and one is how we think about economics. Economics for our people, and that means creating real pathways for work, wages, and wealth. And I want pathways for all three for people. That it means better jobs that pay a better wage, and giving people a chance to have generational wealth, to be able to pass something off to their children. Besides that, I think being able to prioritize public safety is a very big deal. Where if people do not feel safe, they won't stay, and if they don't feel safe, they won't come. And so, really making sure that people can feel safe in their environments, safe in their homes, safe in their communities. That is another major priority that we have. And I think the other big thing that we push on is how do we create an inclusive environment where everybody can feel seen, where we can actually work together. Because this political divisiveness that exists, the political vitriol, the political anger that we continue to see, not just in the United States, but I think in politics and in politics around the world that we continue to see, it's not just dangerous and detrimental, it's something that's going to eat at our fabric. And so those are all things that I think we're really we're focusing on getting right in the state of Maryland.
But how much harder is your role in light of recent developments in the US with respect to killings, and then the resurgence of Trump and the policies that he's pushing?
Yeah, you can't, when you look at this, we've had this era now, where we've had a couple of different dynamics that are taking place that have been remarkably dangerous, where you have this combination of the mental health challenges that people continue to face and everything, and what happened during COVID was not, helped to exacerbate it. This proliferation of weapons and violence, and how easy and accessible it is for people to get their hands on guns. And the fact that you have this political tenor that keeps ratcheting it up. And you have individuals running out there who seemingly just have no controls over what they say, and without realizing the impact of their words. I think that we, as we're going into this new election cycle, and we're going to a new presidential election cycle, it's definitely something that we spend time on. It's definitely something that we think about. I know I thought about it in my race, that even though it wasn't a presidential year, you see how these dynamics, the conversations, and that vitriol can seep into how people feel. The thing that I know that we're continuing to focus on in our work, in our state, is we have to show people that government is going to meet them where they are. That government can meet them where they are. That government can be a force for good. That government can be a force for support. And frankly, the best way that we are going to address that level of separation and division is we've got to get to know each other again. We need to be a state that serves. We need to be a state that actually works together on things. Because part of the reason that I think we've gotten to that level of discourse is because we don't know each other anymore. So it's easy to villainize somebody who you don't know. Very difficult to villainize somebody who you do. And that's why we have a real focus in our work in saying we've got to get to know each other again. Because I believe that if we can do that, if we can serve together, that service is going to help to save us.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, age and all of that, and help me to understand your connection to Jamaica, which parish, and do you still keep in touch with, do you have relatives who remember you or remember your great-grandfather?
Oh, yes.
Tell me about the Jamaican connection.
So my mother was actually born in Low River, over in Trelawney.
Okay.
And but she had spent time in St. James. She spent time in Westmoreland.
Oh, the Western.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where she was born. That's where my family spent much of her time. My grandparents, my grandfather was actually born in the United States.
Okay.
But when he was just, even though my great grandfather was from Jamaica, and when my grandfather was just a toddler, it was actually the Ku Klux Klan that ran them out of the United States, and they came back to Jamaica. And much of my family always said that they would never come back to the United States. They always said, the United States was not a place for them.
Mm-hmm.
And many of my family still do not. I mean, it's the reason I still have many family members I have family in Kingston, I have family in Mobay, I have family in, actually all over the island. But my grandfather did. And my grandfather said he wanted to come back to the United States. He became a minister. And my grandmother was raised also in Jamaica. And then she immigrated with my grandfather to the United States in the 1950s. My mother went with them. I think my mother was 4 when she first came to the United States. And it's interesting because my grandfather, he passed away when he was 87 years old.
Good age.
He's a good age. He lived a good life and a really remarkable life. And he had a deep Jamaican accent his entire life. But he was maybe the most patriotic man I've ever met. Mm-hmm. Like he loved not just Jamaica and was proud of his Jamaican ancestry and heritage. But he loved the United States.
What's his name?
His name was James Joshua Thomas, Reverend James Joshua Thomas. And my grandmother was named Winell. Mm-hmm. Winell Thomas. Yeah, Winell. And no.
No, it's just that your family does so serious spelling in terms of the names.
Yeah.
They really go all out.
No, but it's real. Yeah. And my grandmother, she actually passed away 5 days before Election Day.
Oh boy.
So in fact, one of the final pictures I have of her was a picture of her filling out the absentee ballot for her voting for her grandson in the mail-in ballot. And
so you got her vote even though she passed.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's funny, that picture actually, it hangs in my office.
Mm-hmm.
That picture hangs in my office of her filling out her final, whatever the final thing she did was fill a ballot out for her grandson. And it's interesting because I think about their journey and I think about my path. And I think one of the biggest takeaways that I continue to take in the inspiration is that life is not going to be easy. And it's not going to be simple. And God never promised us that. Right? God never promises easy. He never promises simple. Nowhere in the book does it say anything about, oh yes, life is going to be, everything is a joy. What's promised is salvation. And that the power of love in all of it, the power of love throughout chaos and anger, always is powerful enough to push through it all. And I think that was something that my grandparents helped to teach me both in words and also in deed.
Does that suggest that you're a Christian?
Yes, it does.
Really?
Yes.
What are you Baptist? Methodist?
So the church I attend now is a church called Southern Baptist. Okay. And that's a church in East Baltimore. So I'm a member of Southern Baptist Church in East Baltimore. But yes, I was raised Christian for my whole life.
And your brothers, sisters?
2 sisters. One older sister, mm-hmm. And one younger sister. Both live in Maryland right now. And my older sister is an entrepreneur. She's an event planner and runs her own business. My younger sister is actually a writer for television and movies.
So exciting times ahead for them as well. be associated with you.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be associated with them.
What-
But it was fun because we saw how on the campaign trail it was very much a family affair, where my mom was out door knocking. That same girl born in Jamaica and who raised 3 children. She was out door knocking. My sisters were out door knocking. But also, I was really, you think about the fact that there are tens of thousands of Jamaicans in Maryland. And the level of not just engagement, but excitement that we saw from the Jamaican community for our campaign, for our race, for what we were trying to bring to bear was palpable. So it was a really beautiful time.
What was it that inspired you to move in that direction? Were you on a political path long before?
Not at all.
So how did you get there?
Yeah. I had never run for office before. I didn't come from a political family. I didn't come from a world of politics. In fact, I would say my childhood was filled with examples of how politics didn't work than examples of when politics worked in our favor, right? Where policies were done to us, but policies were never created with us.
And by us, you mean?
I mean, my family, my community.
Your race, that's what I'm asking.
That's exactly right. Where I felt like so much of this was about what was being done to us instead of with us. And, I knew from an early age that I was going to devote my life to public service in some way. It was one of the things that excited me. And I knew that I wanted to fight for people like my mom. I knew I wanted to fight for people like my dad, who died in front of me when I was 3 years old. I wanted to fight for people like my grandparents. And I started doing that, right? I started, whether it was my time in the military, whether it was my time running a business, helping students who were first generation students, or whether it was my time running one of the largest poverty fighting organizations in the country. That's what I was committed to. But the idea of politics was something different because I had grown accustomed to working with policymakers, but not being one myself. And so I've become very accustomed to giving recommendations on what they should do, but not being the one to actually go and implement that. But I would say probably about 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago now, about 3 years ago now, I started thinking about the work that I was doing. And I started thinking about the impact that we were having. And I was running one of the largest poverty fighting organizations in the country.
What the funding?
The full name is the Robin Hood Foundation. But the thing that I realized that if we aren't fixing the systems that continue to allow people to fall between the cracks, then we will just repeatedly find ourselves cleaning up the debris that comes from broken systems. And that was never going to be good enough. So that's when I decided it's time for me to get more involved. The relationship that we have between the state of Maryland and Jamaica is a strong one. And I'm committed to making it even stronger. Just because I know how much Jamaica has to offer, that I know we're excited to share and highlight for the people in Maryland. And I know how much the people of Maryland have to offer that I think can be beneficial to everybody in Jamaica. And so I take it as a personal privilege to be able to be the governor. But more importantly, I take this moment with a real degree of excitement because I understand how incredible this moment can and will be for everything we're open